Before we begin, take a moment to get comfortable. Let your arms go heavy, your breath slow. And as you listen, feel free to leave a comment sharing what time it is, where you are, and what city or village you're listening from. It's love to know. And if you'd like more quiet stories like this one, don't forget to subscribe so they gently appear when you need them most. Now, let's begin. You lie down in the dark and look up. The air is still. Kits hum. A faint breeze presses against your cheeks, okay? And above you, the sky unfolds. Not like a wall or a roof, but like a question. It doesn't end, doesn't begin. It just opens. A single point becomes 1,000. Then thousands become millions, twinkling in silence, gently scattered across the ceiling of your imagination. But is it a ceiling? Or just the illusion of one? Your eyes treat the stars like they sit upon a bowl, a great inverted dome above the earth, as ancient stargazers once believed. But your thoughts know better. They know that each point of light is not a hole poked through the sky, but a sun burning somewhere unimaginably far away. Some brighter, some closer, others dimmer, maybe already gone. You're not just looking up, you're looking back in time, because light has a speed and a memory. The starlight reaching you tonight left its source years ago, decades ago, centuries. Some photons traveling into your eye now may have left their stars long before your great-grandparents were born. A few, perhaps, even before humans ever spoke a word aloud. You don't see the stars as they are, you see them as they were. And so, the night sky becomes a soft kind of time machine, not blinking forward like a clock, but blinking backward, revealing the universe's long, slow memory. But still, you wonder, where does it stop? If you could stand, and then rise, and then fly, and then keep flying, would you ever reach the end? Would there be a curtain, a wall, a final star? Or does space simply stretch forever? Scientists once thought the universe might be small, that it might curve inward like a dome or a ball. If that were true, you could travel in one direction, far enough, and someday return to where you began, like an ant on the surface of a balloon. But then the balloon began to stretch, not just in imagination, but in reality. The universe, we discovered, is not still. It expands, like dough, rising slowly, patiently in a bowl. Every galaxy drifting farther from every other, not because they are moving, but because the fabric beneath them, space itself, is stretching. You are not sitting still, even now, in the quiet. Your body is being carried gently outward by a cosmos in motion. You don't feel it? No wind presses your chest. No hum moves beneath your feet. But like leaves resting on a river, you are floating outward. So perhaps there is no edge, only expansion, like a dream that grows as you explore it. But even in an infinite dream, you ask, where does the dream end? Here's what we know, and what we Dan single quotes. We know there is a limit, a cosmic horizon. Beyond it, light hasn't had enough time since the beginning of the universe to reach us. Not because those galaxies don't exist, but because their light hasn't yet arrived, and maybe never will. So the sky is not a wall, it is a whisper from long ago, fading softly as it travels. The farther you look, the more that whisper stretches. Red shifts into silence, till, at last, it vanishes into darkness, not because there is nothing there, but because it's just too far to see. And what is far, anyway, in a universe that grows every second? You may imagine a rocket ship, one powerful enough to travel faster than any built before. Could it reach the edge? Could it find the final star, the last grain of cosmic sand? Here's the strange thing. The faster you travel, the farther away the edge becomes. It's like chasing the horizon on a rising balloon. You never quite reach it. The universe stretches beneath your feet as fast as you run. Some physicists say the universe may be infinite, not just very big, but truly unending. No borders, no edges, no final frame. Others say it might be curved, like a sphere, too big to see its own shape. You might travel forever and loop back to where you began, never noticing the curve beneath your path. And some whisper something even stranger, that what we call space might not be all there is, that other universes might sit beside ours, separated not by distance, but by laws. Different physics, different light, different space. Our universe could be a bubble in a cosmic foam, one of many, okay, or one of countless. But even if that were true, could you ever reach the space between spaces? For now, your tools cannot stretch that far. Not telescopes, not rockets, not even math. You sit in a bubble, and the soap film that holds you inside is made of space-time itself. Still, your thoughts drift farther. They pass galaxies and stars. They pass hydrogen clouds and neutron winds. They enter voids, enormous regions where nothing shines, where no stars have ever formed. These are the blank places, the quietest corners of the cosmos. And yet, even here, the question remains, what lies beyond? Is it more space, different space, or nothing? But what does nothing mean when even empty space is full of invisible dance? At the quantum level, even the vacuum is alive. Virtual particles flicker in and out of being. Energy murmurs from the void. There is no true silence, no pure stillness. Not yet. Even nothing has weight. So maybe, just maybe, space doesn't end because it never began. It was not born at a point, but unfolded from a state we cannot yet imagine. It's a place where time itself may not have existed, okay? Beginning without a before. You are part of that unfolding. Every breath you take, every moment you experience is stitched into the quilt of space-time. You are not above space. You are inside it, of it, woven into its fabric, gently carried through its stretching seams. So when you wonder where space ends, perhaps you are also wondering where you end. Your mind reaches for a border, a limit, a fence. But space does not answer with a wall. It answers with a feeling of motion, depth, of openness, of infinite possibility. And so, under the stars, you breathe a little slower. You let your thoughts wander, not toward a finish line, but into the soft, unknowing, the gentle forever. You close your eyes, good, and feel the sky continue without you. Somewhere in that stillness, space goes on, not waiting, not watching, just being, and perhaps just beyond your last visible star. It is not an end, but the next unfolding, folding. Close your eyes and imagine a moment when nothing existed. No stars, no time, no space, not even the idea of nothing. Just stillness, not quiet, but absence. Not blackness, but no color at all. No distance between things, because there were no things to separate. And then, something changed. Not a bang, not an explosion in the way fireworks scatter against a dark sky. There was no sky. The Big Bang was not a burst inside of space. It was the birth of space itself. Imagine a balloon, not with air pushed into it from outside, but growing from a point so small you cannot see it. The surface expands in all directions, but there is no center within the surface itself. Every point moves away from every other point. Tia isn't spreading into something else. Kara, it is becoming larger on its own. You were not dropped into this space. Carrie, where particle in your body, every proton in your bones, every electron whispering in your nerves was once compressed into that first seed of the cosmos. A point of unimaginable density and energy. A moment where everything was everything, and also nothing. Then it unfolded, not like a hand opening after a long sleep, but like a rhythm swelling from silence. Space stretched, time ticked, energy cooled, particles danced, and the universe began to write itself into being. It's one fraction of a second at a time. The earliest moments are wrapped in mystery. Our math reaches but stumbles. Our telescopes look far but not far enough, and yet the echoes remain. The cosmic microwave background, a faint hiss of light in every direction, is the soft afterglow of the universe's first breath, a whisper from when the universe was only 380,000 years old, glowing softly with heat and simplicity. You can hear that whisper if you know how to listen. Some of it hums in the static between radio stations, a low cosmic murmur telling you this is how it began. But even before that glow, before light could travel freely, there was chaos. Quarks and gluons swimming in a hot plasma. Forces not yet split from one another. A unified field, perhaps, where gravity and light and nuclear power were not siblings. One. Then, as the universe cooled, the great separation began. Like instruments tuning after a storm, the four fundamental forces of physics each took their own path. Gravity drifting apart first, then the strong force, then electromagnetism, and the weak nuclear force. Each one shaping the future in its own quiet way. And still, space kept expanding, not into a void, but as the void itself. This is hard to imagine, because your mind prefers rooms with walls, journeys with maps, beginnings that lead to something else. But the universe was not born inside a room. Womb, slowly making itself larger with every passing moment. This stretching wasn't slow. In the first trillionth of a second, the universe may have grown from smaller than an atom to the size of a grapefruit, faster than the speed of light. This phase is called inflation, not the kind that raises prices, the kind that gives birth to structure. Tiny quantum jitters, fluctuations so small they should have meant nothing, were stretched into patterns that would become galaxies, clusters, walls of Stars.you are shaped by those ancient jitters. Your home, your sky, your very breath, each born from the fingerprint of inflation. And what caused inflation? No one knows. Perhaps a field called the inflaton rolled down a gentle hill of energy and triggered the great expansion. Or perhaps something more mysterious, still hidden beyond the veil of our measurements. A law not yet written, truth still waiting to be named. Even now, we don't fully understand how something came from nothing. Some say the total energy of the universe is exactly zero. That matter and motion are perfectly balanced by gravity's pull, like a knot tied from opposite tensions. If so, the universe could have emerged from a quantum fluctuation, a borrowing from nothingness with the interest paid in eternity. Others say that nothingness is unstable, that true nothing cannot stay nothing for long, that the vacuum, even in its purest silence, is pregnant with possibility, that particles, time, even laws themselves bubble up and fall back down, that creation is not a miracle, but a requirement. And still others say the question itself is wrong, that before the universe is not a thing that exists. Then asking what came before the Big Bang is like asking what's north of the North Pole. Time began with the universe. The clock started only when space did. There was no before, because before is a concept born inside time, not outside it. So instead of thinking backward, you think outward. The universe stretches still. Each second, more space emerges. Galaxies drift apart, not because they move, but because the space between them grows, like raisins baking in bread. The dough rises, and the raisins drift, carried by expansion itself. And you float in, this loaf of stars. Even your own body feels it. Not directly, the expansion is gentle here, but the atoms in you cooled in the early furnace of the cosmos. The hydrogen in your blood was born 3 minutes after the Big Bang. The calcium in your bones was forged later in dying stars. But those stars grew from clouds shaped by that first expansion. You are a continuation of space's first breath, a breath that hasn't ended, because space is still growing, not at the edges, but everywhere. Every meter, every moment, carried outward by a force we call dark energy, a strange pressure that resists gravity. It makes the universe expand faster with time. The more space there is, the faster it grows. It's a strange runaway dance. Some say this means the universe will never stop expanding. It's that in the far future, stars will drift too far to see. Galaxies will go dark. Atoms will decay, and only space, cold, silent, eternal, will remain. Others say the expansion could slow, reverse, and collapse. A big crunch, a folding in of everything that was. And others still imagine cycles, expansions, and contractions. Big bangs and big crunches, repeating endlessly. A breath in, a breath out, across forever. But no matter the ending, your present remains tethered to the beginning. You live in a universe that makes itself moment by moment. Every second, more space, more time, more possibility. And even now, the afterglow of that first breath still warms your night sky. It's faint. You cannot see it with your eyes, but the instruments can. They show you patterns, tiny variations in temperature and density, laid out like an infant's fingerprint, a fossil of the universe's first thoughts. And from those patterns, we know space has grown. Space continues to grow, and you are part of that growing, not separate from it, made of it. So, you lie beneath the stars and wonder how far space goes. Remember, you are not just looking into space, you are looking with space. You are an eye grown from the cosmos, staring back into its ancient memory, and in this quiet looking, you become the question and the answer. And maybe, just maybe, it's the next thought that stirs in your mind, soft and silent as starlight, will carry you toward another mystery. Because space may have grown from nothing, but now it grows through you, goes through you. You are surrounded by distance. It lives in the gap between your fingers, in the horizon where the sea kisses the sky. In the pause between this breath and the next dot, measuring seems simple. You've done it your whole life. A step, a second, meter, a mile. Each one a mark along the path of space. Each one a little comfort, a way to say, I know where I am, but what happens when the road keeps going? When space does not hold still long enough to be measured. Imagine you hold a ruler, 12 inches, solid, trusted. Okay. Tells you the length of a table. But what is it telling you? Really? That light, bouncing off atoms, takes a certain time to reach your eyes. That you've agreed together to call this 1 foot. That matter has a shape, and you've named its reach. All measurement is agreement, not with the universe, but with each other. You measure seconds by vibration quartz, crystals ticking, or cesium atoms oscillating in atomic clocks. You measure space with light, how long a beam takes to return. And you measure stars with parallax, triangulation, redshift, and radio echoes. But space does not sign your contracts. It stretches without asking. It curves where you least expect. K folds in on itself under gravity's hush. And the farther you look, the less your rules apply. Once ancient astronomers charted stars with string and shadow. They mapped the heavens like sailors drawing coastlines, naming constellations to fix their place in the world. They had no idea how far those lights really were, but still, they measured what they could, dangles, rises, returns. Those small patterns held immense truth. Then, telescopes extended your sight. Galileo, peering through lenses, saw moons dancing around Jupiter. Suddenly, the heavens were not fixed. They moved. They were measureable. Today, you measure with more than eyes. You stretch radio waves across galaxies. You bounce lasers off lunar mirrors left by astronauts to detect gravity waves rippling from black hole mergers. You use the very wrinkles in the sky-vi cosmic microwave background as a yardstick, but the yard keeps moving. The universe is expanding. Not the galaxies speeding through space, but space itself stretching between them, so your measurements must adjust. When you look far, you look back in time. The light from a galaxy 10 billion light years away shows you how it was 10 billion years ago, but that galaxy isn't there anymore. It has moved, or more accurately, space has moved it. That galaxy might now be 30 billion light years away. You measured it once and found it distant. Measure it again and it slips further. What is distance when the ruler itself is elastic? Astronomers work with different kinds of distance. There's co-moving distance, the current stretch from here to there if expansion were frozen. There's luminosity distance, how bright something looks, based on how far its light has traveled. There's angular diameter distance, how big something appears in your sky. Each gives a different number. Each whispers a different truth. None tells the whole story, so why bother? Because in those shifting numbers are clues. Clues about the shape of the universe, clues about how fast it's expanding, clues about dark energy, dark matter, and time itself. Your universe might be flat, curved like a saddle, or curved like a sphere. If flat, parallel lines never meet. If spherical, travel far enough, and you return to where you began. If saddle-shaped, parallel lines diverge forever. We've measured and the answer is almost perfectly flat, but almost is doing heavy lifting. If space were curved, its radius would be far larger than what we can see. So we still don't know if space ends or folds back on itself, and even our seeing is limited. There's a cosmic horizon, a distance beyond which light has not had time to reach us. Not because the universe is small, but because time is. You see only the observable universe, roughly 93 billion light years across, but the whole of space could be vastly bigger, possibly infinite, possibly one bubble in a sea of bubbles, possibly just a dream, folding into itself again and again. Still, you try to measure. You map galaxy clusters and gravitational lensing. You measure the redshift of distant light, how it stretches as space expands. Okay? You count how far type Ia supernova appeared dimmer than expected. You listen to ripples, inspect time.all to answer the simplest of questions. Where are we? And how far does it go? Even in your own solar system, space plays tricks. Mercury's orbit presses its shift because of space-time curvature near the sun. Einstein predicted it. Newton could not explain it. Keen measurement told the tale. You send probes to Mars and Saturn. You correct their paths based on relativity, because even light takes time to travel, and time bends with gravity. Each correction is a tiny act of humility. It's a nod to space's refusal to stay still. On Earth, GPS satellites would fail without adjusting for both gravity and velocity. Your phone depends on physics that bends clocks. Even your morning walk is steeped in cosmic measurement, but still, you are limited. Light moves fast, but not instantly. The farther you look, the older your image. So you wonder, what is space? Right now, far away. You cannot know, because now is local. Simultaneity dissolves at cosmic scale. Each region has its own time, shaped by its motion, mass, and gravity. You measure shadows of shadows, patterns within patterns, light that left long ago and may never return. You build models, equations, simulations. They help, but they are not the thing. The map is not the territory in space. It laughs softly at your rulers. You can never step outside it to see it whole. You are inside the canvas, drawing with crayons made from the same cloth. And maybe that's the point. Space is not meant to be grasped entirely. It's meant to be wandered again, measured gently with awe, and known not just by numbers, but by the feeling of smallness and belonging. So you stretch your instruments. You build bigger telescopes. You imagine bolder missions. You try to see to the edge of all things, and each time you reach farther, the edge moves, because the truth is, space may not have an end. It may stretch forever, not like a line, but like a surface with no seams, a Mobius strip, torus, a mystery, something you can measure only piece by piece, like trying to know the sea by tasting waves. And yet, even without full knowing, you keep reaching. You measure what cannot be touched. You name what cannot be held. You follow numbers into the night, hoping they'll become meaning, and sometimes they do, because in the act of measuring, you become part of the story. A witness, a mapper, a soft voice murmuring, this far, and maybe farther still. And in the silence after the numbers, another question begins to form. If space stretches beneath your feet, what is it made of? What fabric carries the stars? What is this quiet stage that holds the universe aloft? Can gently, with your mind still open, you begin to wonder. You sit still, or so you think, feet planted on the ground, eyes on the sky. But stillness is an illusion, because beneath you, behind you, and all around space is moving. It doesn't rush or roar. It doesn't crack or creak like an old floorboard. It stretches, silently, constantly, a fabric unfolding itself from within. You live not on a fixed stage, cut on something fluid, a cosmic rug that's unrolling as you breathe, and you've been gliding across it since the day you were born. This expansion isn't like wind pushing clouds. It isn't even motion in the way you understand motion. It's the stretching of space itself, not the things within it. Imagine dots painted on a balloon. As the balloon inflates, the dots move apart, not because they're crawling over rubber, but because the surface between them expands. Now stretch that balloon in every direction, not just across the surface, but through every dimension, up, down, forward, back, in, and out. That is your universe. Galaxies are not flying away through space. They are growing farther apart because space is expanding between them. And here's the odd part. There is no center, no starting point, no place from which this expansion radiates. The expansion happens everywhere, all at once. That means you, sitting quietly, part of this cosmic blooming. Even the space between your atoms is expanding, just not enough to pull them apart. Gravity, electromagnetism, the strong nuclear force, these hold you together. But on the scale of galaxies, those forces lose their grip and space stretches. The idea was first imagined nearly a century ago. In the 1920s, Edwin Hubble looked through his telescope and saw something strange. Light from distant galaxies appeared redder than expected. Redshift, they called it, stretching of wavelengths, as if space itself would draw them out, like a violin string pulled too far. From that, he realized, the farther a galaxy is, the faster it recedes. A pattern, not random. Hubble had stumbled onto the truth. The universe is expanding. But what does that mean for you? It means you are always in motion, not because you move, but because the coordinates of space are sliding beneath your skin. Your body may seem still, but it rides a current as ancient as time, even now. In this moment, space expands between you and the distant edges of the observable universe, between you and galaxies you'll never see, between you and the background radiation, whisper of the Big Bang. At first, this expansion was slow. Then it began to speed up, and now scientists believe it's accelerating. Dark energy is the name given to this strange pressure. It's not a thing you can hold or see. It's a force written into the vacuum, an anti-gravity, quiet and persistent, gently urging everything apart. Over billions of years, it has reshaped the cosmos. Clusters of galaxies drifted apart. The night sky became lonelier. Some stars, once visible, faded beyond the reach of telescopes. And one day, only the nearest galaxies may remain in sight, a local neighborhood, floating in an ocean of black dot. This isn't science fiction. It's the slow march of reality, and you're inside it. You're not on the sidelines, watching. You're part of the cloth being pulled. You exist on the expanding stage. This has deep implications. It means there is no fixed grid of space, no universal reference point. Only relationships how one thing stretches from another, and as space stretches, light stretches too. Asterisk, you left off with light stretching. Light stretches too. The wavelength lengthens, the color shifts, and what began as bright, visible light becomes infrared, microwave, eventually radio waves, and then silence. That's why the light from some galaxies is no longer visible. It's not because they dimmed. It's because their light has stretched beyond the grasp of your eyes. What was once a shimmer is now a whisper. What was once a beam becomes a background hum. That hum still surrounds you. It's called the cosmic microwave background, the afterglow of the universe's birth, still expanding, still cooling, still echoing through the expanding sea of space. And this sea has no shore. There is no edge, no outer fence or final frontier, because the universe isn't expanding into anything, it's expanding itself. It's not like ink bleeding into paper. It's like the paper growing in all directions. So when you ask where the edge is, you're asking a question shaped by earth, by rooms, by walls. But space doesn't follow those lines. It bends, it curves, it folds. Imagine standing on the surface of a sphere. No matter how far you walk, you never find a boundary. You return to where you began. Now, imagine that, but in 3 dimensions. You live in that, an expanding sphere without a skin. It's strange, isn't it? To feel so small, but to know you're woven into the very fabric of this expansion. To realize your breath, this one exists because the laws of space allow it. You sit in a galaxy that sits in a cluster that drifts in a supercluster, or riding atop a swelling fabric, so vast it cannot be pictured, so slow it cannot be felt, so certain it defines the rhythm of everything. Even your time is tied to space. As the universe expands, so does your sense of duration. Seconds are measured in vibrations, in rotations, in the pulse of space itself. Time doesn't float above it all. It is etched into the same loom. Space and time are not separate. They are space-time, single, unified thing, and that thing expands. And that expansion changes everything. It means the past looked different. The early universe was smaller, denser, hotter. Galaxies crowded closer. Radiation filled the sky. Light had nowhere to stretch. Colors were sharper. Gravity pulled tighter. Time flowed differently. And it means the future, the deep, far future, will be colder, darker, emptier. Galaxies will slip beyond the visible. New stars will stop forming. Old stars will burn out. Its only cooling embers will remain. But space will keep expanding forever. This expansion isn't just happening in the grand distances. It exists in the spaces between you and everything you are not. It gently pulls on the threads of all things. Even the distance between thought and breath is cradled in this expansion. But don't be afraid. It's not tearing you apart. Gravity holds your feet to the earth. Electromagnetism holds your atoms together. Forces stronger than expansion still govern your scale. Yet you are still inside it. You are a ripple on a ripple. A moment inside. A wave, a breath, suspended in something stretching. And that something will stretch even after you are gone. The sun will die. The Milky Way will collide with Andromeda. But the fabric of space will keep growing. Not faster, perhaps, but more alone. Astronomers sometimes call it the heat death of the universe. A time when all energy is spread so thin, there are no differences left. No gradients, no temperature, no motion, just silence. But that's far beyond your concern. Billions of years, countless generations of stars and beings and stories. What matters now is the quiet miracle that you are here, in this brief, warm moment, on a planet that orbits a star that dances through an ever-expanding sky. What matters is knowing that you are not separate from this fabric. You are stitched into it. Your thoughts ride this expansion. Your breath leans into it. Your heart, beating now, exists because the fabric beneath your feet allows it. The ancient texts once spoke of a world held on the back of a turtle, a disk held by gods, a dome surrounded by waters. But science shows something just as poetic, a cosmos without center, without edge, unfolding gently, invisibly, holding you not on a platform, but in an embrace. This chapter ends here, not with a conclusion, but with a question floating just beyond reach. If space expands beneath you always, where, then, are you going? And what else might be drifting just out of sight, out of sight? You sit quietly, somewhere on Earth, wrapped in breath and thought, and you wonder, where does it all stop? The stars above seem countless, but surely there's a last one, a final galaxy perched on the edge of everything. Your mind, shaped by rooms and borders, wants a frame for the infinite. You ask, where does the universe end? But the answer slips between ideas like silk between fingers, because in the language of the cosmos, end is not always the same as edge. You live inside a space that's not enclosed, a place that doesn't need walls to be vast. The universe isn't like a balloon floating in air, bursting outward into nothingness. It is the balloon. It is the air. It is all there is. And it's still growing. You can walk to the edge of a table. You can sail to the edge of a map, but how do you reach the edge of space if there's nothing outside it? This is where physics gets quiet and imagination stretches softly. One possibility is that the universe is infinite. No edge, no outer rim, just more. Always more. More stars, more galaxies, more silence. Forever. If this is true, then no matter how far you travel, you'll never arrive at the last thing, because there is no last. Every direction leads to somewhere new, not because you're in a loop, but because the road never ends. But what if it's not infinite? What if the universe is finite but with no boundary? Picture this, a sphere, not a ball with an outside, but a surface like the skin of a globe. You can walk across it forever and never find a wall. You just keep going, okay? And if you go far enough, you return to where you started. This is a closed universe, finite in size, infinite in experience. You are not on the outside of a cosmic sphere. You are in it, woven into its very structure. Like an ant walking on the surface of a balloon, you travel through curves you cannot see. Einstein's theories allow this. Space can bend, can twist, can fold back on itself. So if you ask, where does the universe end? The answer may be, it. Doesn't it wraps? Keys? That means, if you sailed your starship forever in one direction, with no obstacles, no decay, no time running out, you could, in theory, arrive behind yourself. A full circle, a cosmic return, not through teleportation or magic, but by the geometry of the universe itself. It is a strange thought. No edge, but also no beyond. You live in something that may curve without borders, a space that closes like a thought returning home. But there's another idea, one that physics whispers about with caution. What if there is a multiverse? Not just one universe, but many, each one its own bubble, floating in a cosmic sea too. Vast a picture. In this view, your universe might be finite, with an edge of sorts, but not a wall. A transition, a boundary where physics itself changes, okay, and something completely different begins. Beyond that edge might be another universe, with different rules, different particles, different dimensions. And if that's true, then the question, where does the universe end, isn't wrong, but it's too small. It's like asking where your town ends without knowing the continent exists. In this picture, space does have a kind of edge, but it's not an end to existence. It's the place where your version of space gives way to another. A curtain between worlds, never to be crossed, never to be touched. But still there, like the silence on the other side of a closed door. Science doesn't know which is true. Infinite, finite, and curved, bubbled in AMULTIVERSE. The measurements we take today only show what we can observe. What light has had time to reach us? That distance, about 46 billion light years in every direction. It's called the observable universe. But that's not the whole story. That's just the part we can see. The universe itself may be far larger, perhaps endless, perhaps curved, perhaps nestled among siblings you'll never meet. So if you're asking, where does the universe end? You're really asking, what is the shape of everything? And that question doesn't have a final answer. Not yet, but there are signs, clues, footprints left in the fabric of spectric, like the cosmic microwave background, the afterglow of the Big Bang, a soft hiss of ancient light that fills every corner of space. It is nearly the same in every direction. No edges, no sudden walls, just the same quiet glow that suggests if there is an end, it's far beyond your reach. So far that light from it hasn't had time to get here, and may never. But perhaps you're still wondering something deeper. If there's no edge, why does it feel like there should be? Why does your mind crave a boundary, a frame, a final thing? It's because you live inside edges. Your skin is a border. Your home has walls. Your planet has a horizon. Your life has a beginning and an end. Boundaries comfort you. They tell you where things stop, where safety lies, where definition begins. But the universe is not shaped by your comfort. It is shaped by laws, by forces, by dimensions that do not need to stop. And so, or in your small body, on your small planet, you are asked to imagine something without offense. Something that goes on not forever in time, but forever in distance, forever in possibility. And perhaps that's where wonder lies. Not in knowing where things stop, but in sitting quietly with the knowledge that they may not. So here you are, cradled inside a space that may have no outside, no rim, no opposite shore, and you are made of it. Your body, your breath, your dreams. Atoms forged in stars, carried through galaxies, whispering with the voice of the cosmos. There may be no edge to space, but there is a boundary you can cross, the boundary of understanding. Each time you learn a little more, the horizon shifts. Each time you wonder a little deeper, the universe grows with you. So perhaps it's not the universe that ends, Tiana, but only the questions that shrink. And tomorrow, when the stars rise again, you'll look up, not searching for the edge, but simply listening to what the silence has to say. And somewhere in that silence, you may begin to wonder how far light can go before time gives out. You sit quietly under a sky that seems to go on forever. Above you, stars whisper through blackness. Galaxies gleam like frozen dew scattered across velvet. But not every galaxy can be seen, and not every whisper of light has made it to your eyes. There is a limit. Not because the stars have stopped, not because space ends, but because time, like a wave reaching the shore, has only carried light so far. You live in a universe with a horizon, not like the horizon at sea, where the ocean curves away, but a cosmic horizon woven into the nature of space and time itself. It's called the observable universe. Roughly 46 billion light years in every direction. Not because that's the size of everything, but because that's how far light has had time to travel since time began. You see, the universe is about 13.8 billion years old. So you might think the farthest light you could ever see would come from something 13.8 billion light years away. But space isn't still. It stretches. It's like soft fabric being pulled quietly outward in every direction as light journeys toward you. The space between you and that light grows, and that stretching stretches the light to redshifting it, lengthening it, it's making it fainter, cooler, more ancient. So when you gaze deep into the cosmos, through telescope lenses or into thought, you are peering back in time. Each photon carries a history, and some of those histories began near the dawn of everything. The most distant light we can see comes from a time when the universe was just 380,000 years old. Before that, space was too hot, too thick, too tangled for light to travel freely. That ancient light still surrounds you now, a warm, even glow, stretched thin across the sky. It's called the cosmic microwave background. It is the echo of a beginning, and it marks the start of visibility. Everything beyond that point, before that moment, is hidden, not by distance, but by time and temperature. And even after that moment, some light still hasn't reached you, because some galaxies are just too far. Their light is still on the way, or perhaps because of space's expansion, it never will be. It's a strange thought. Some galaxies are moving away from you faster than light, not because they are flying through space, but because space itself is expanding between you and them, stretching so fast that the light can't catch up. In Einstein's relativity, this is not a paradox. Space can expand faster than light travels, and so there are galaxies whose light is being stretched beyond visibility, beyond red, beyond warmth, into silence. You'll never see them. not because they aren't there, but because their messages will never arrive. They've crossed the cosmic event horizon, point beyond which light can no longer reach you, no matter how long you wait. This isn't just a limit in practice. It's a limit in principle. A soft wall, not of matter or energy, but of time's own reach. So you might ask, isn't that an edge? Not quite, because beyond that horizon, galaxies still exist. They still spin, burn, collapse, and give birth. Stars still shine, but not for you. You are simply too far apart now, like friends once close, drifting silently out of reach on separate boats. And over time, more galaxies will cross that boundary. The universe expands, and as it does, the horizon shrinks. Not in size, but in connection. The night sky will grow, LONELIER, in billions of years. Future astronomers may look up and see nothing but the stars of their own galaxy. The rest will have vanished, not in destruction, but in disappearance. They will live beyond the curtain of reach. This doesn't mean the universe is dying. It means the story is becoming more private, each part of the cosmos pulling away. Each light separated from the next by the quiet drift of space itself. You exist in a brief window of clarity. When telescopes can still see ancient galaxies, when your instruments can still catch whispers of the beginning. One day, this will no longer be true. And yet, there's beauty in the vanishing, knowing that some things are too distant for even light to touch. That there are places so far. They will remain mysteries, not because they are hidden, but because the universe simply outpaces your gaze. So, this horizon, this cosmic limit, it isn't a tragedy. It's a reminder that you are part of something vast, something whose size cannot be traveled, whose map cannot be finished, whose edges are made of time, not fences. And just as you look out, you might turn inward, because you too have horizons. Moments beyond which your memories can't go. Thoughts that drift beyond your knowing. Feelings you cannot yet name. In that way, you and the universe echo each other. A set of unreachable edges, gentle, not cruel, soft boundaries made not of endings, but of becoming. There will always be parts of space that you cannot reach, but perhaps that's why you keep wondering, why you keep asking, why you keep listening to the silence just beyond the stars. And somewhere in that silence, just beyond the horizon, you begin to wonder. What happens when space stretches so much that galaxies drift away faster than memory can hold? You lie still, eyes closed, and imagine the sky without stars. Not dark, not black, just empty. The kind of quiet that feels like a held breath, but long ago, perhaps not so long. This sky was full of motion. It held galaxies like grains of sand suspended in oil. And now, some of those grains slip quietly out of view. Not because they burned out, not because they died, but because space itself carries them away. You're not watching motion, you're watching drift. Soft, steady, cosmic drift. Galaxies once seen in telescopes are no longer visible, not because the equipment failed, not because you blinked, but because the universe grew too much between you and them. Imagine a loaf of rising dough, dotted with raisins. As the dough expands, each raisin moves farther from the others. But they're not moving through the dough itself is growing. This is how galaxies move apart, not by propulsion, not by explosion, but by inflation. Now, imagine the dough rising so fast, so wide, that one raisin your favorite becomes too far to touch, to smell, even to see. This is how you lose galaxies, not all at once, quietly, over time. They redshift light, stretching, as if tugged by distance, until the visible fades into infrared, the infrared into microwave, the microwave into stillness. You don't see them go. You notice only the silence left behind. The farther a galaxy is, the faster it appears to recede. This isn't because it's speeding through space. It's because space itself is expanding beneath it, and at some point, that expansion outpaces light. Spitting a boundary forms, not a wall, but a moment. That moment is called the cosmic event horizon, a place beyond which light, even if it leaves now, will never reach you. It is not fixed, it moves. As space moves, and galaxies fall beyond it, like autumn leaves drifting beyond a fence line. Let's say, if you look through a telescope at a galaxy 10 billion light years away, today you can still see it. You're looking at ancient light. That left when Earth was young. But tomorrow, that galaxy might redshift just a little more. And the day after, even more. Until one day, that light is no longer light. It becomes a whisper of warmth. Then a blur of radiation. Then a hush, eventually. Even that fades. The galaxy hasn't disappeared. It's still there, burning, swirling, colliding, birthing stars, devouring dust. But to you, it has become invisible. And here's the wonder. The more time passes, the fewer galaxies remain in view. Today, the observable universe contains around 2 trillion galaxies. But fast forward 100 billion years, and that number plummets in the far future. It's only your local group of galaxies, Milky Way, Andromeda. Their companions will remain visible. All the rest, gone to the drift. It's not apocalypse, it's isolation. The universe isn't collapsing, it's expanding into quiet. In this quiet, it's no explosion, just more space, it's more silence, and less light. Imagine future astronomers billions of years from now. They aim their instruments at the sky and see nothing but their own galaxy. No evidence of a Big Bang, no cosmic microwave background, no far-off galaxies to measure redshift. From their point of view, it might seem like the universe is static, eternal, small. They might never know what you know, now that you once looked up and saw everything. In a way, you live in a golden moment, a cosmic spring, when light from ancient stars still brushes against your instruments, your skin, your dreams. The universe shows itself to you now, but it will not always, because galaxies aren't staying put. They're leaving, their light trails behind them, like footprints in sand. But the wind of expansion erases those footprints one by one. You might wonder, can we ever reach them? Can a rocket be fast enough to chase a galaxy drifting away at the speed of space? No, because the destination isn't moving the distance. Self is changing. It's like trying to run across a treadmill, stretching faster than your legs can carry you. No matter how fast you go, the finish line slips farther. And yet, there's no tragedy in this loss, just beauty, a kind of astronomical folly. You are witnessing the part of the universe that will become unknowable, and perhaps that makes your gaze more precious. Each photon you collect from a distant galaxy is a message from a time that will never return, a postcard from a friend you'll never meet again, a whisper across eons. Even now, telescopes like the James Webb peer deeper into space than ever before. They send you portraits of the ancient universe read, stretched, glowing with dust. Some of those galaxies are already lost to the horizon, but their light, their memory still floats towards you, and you teeny, temporary, curious catch it. You hold their final words, and in doing so, you give them a kind of afterlife. Galaxies may drift out of sight, but not out of story, not out of thought. You imagine them still spinning, still shining, still colliding, and creating in realms no telescope will ever reach. And you ask, is that what it means to exist? To leave behind a trail of light, one that moves forward, even after you've gone? Because just as galaxies drift from view, so do people, and yet you remember their names, you hold their words, you keep their stories. Perhaps you are the telescope of time, not the kind that sees light, but the kind that carries it, that catches it, keeps it. Galaxies fade beyond sight, but maybe that's not the end. Maybe that's just another way of becoming distant, count infinite, and quiet, like the stars themselves. And as you lie back and feel the stretch of space beneath your skin, you begin to wonder, if galaxies can vanish into distance, what else might be quietly disappearing around you? Anything can drift back. You begin with a breath, a quiet one, drawn slowly through your nose. It moves through air, across skin, around cells. But what is that air? What fills the space between? And what, if anything, lies in the space between everything else? You might picture emptiness, vacuum, a blackness so pure it has no substance, no sound. But that image is an illusion, a comforting, tidy guess. In reality, the space between things is far from still. It teems, it shimmers, it breathes in ways you cannot see. Let's start with something close. Hold out your hand. You see flesh, skin, nails, but those are made of molecules: carbon, oxygen, nitrogen. Zoom closer, and you find atoms. Each atom has a nucleus, dense and tiny, orbited by electrons, like planets around a star. But most of that atom is space. If an atom were the size of a cathedral, its nucleus would be a grain of rice. In the center, everything else, empty. Except it's not. Because even in that vast atomic gap, its vacuum seethes. Particles flicker into existence for less than a breath, then vanish. They come in pairs, matter and antimatter, like mirror twins. Scientists call them virtual particles. They're real, fleeting, ephemeral thoughts in the mind of the universe. And they don't just appear inside atoms. They appear everywhere, in deep space, in laboratory vacuums, between stars, even between the fibers of your sweater. They are the soft static behind reality. And their presence is not just poetic, it's measurable. In 1948, a Dutch physicist named Hendrik Casimir proposed an experiment. Placed two metal plates extremely close together, so close that only certain wavelengths of virtual particles could fit between them. The result, a measurable force, pushing the plates together, not from any obvious pressure, but from the absence of particles between them. Compared to the abundance outside, this is called the Casimir effect, proof that the vacuum is not empty, it's full of potential. Now, lift your gaze from atoms to galaxies. Between them lies interstellar space. You might think it's blank, but even there, the vacuum crackles with electromagnetic fields, with cosmic rays, with photons from the cosmic microwave background in ancient light, from when the universe was just 380,000 years old. That light still moves through space like an echo in a cathedral. Fills the room you're in right now. It touches your skin. You are not separate from space. You are within it. You are of it. Even the gap between thoughts is filled with motion. Your neurons don't fire continuously. They pause. They wait. They pulse. Between those pulses, between action potentials, there is time and there is space. And in that space, ions hover, neurotransmitters drift. Thought is not a solid thing. It flickers, just like the vacuum. You are not a continuous line. You are a constellation of moments, each born in the gap between. This is true for music as well. Between each note is silence, but that silence is not Keats, where anticipation lives. It's what gives shape to melody. A song without pauses is noise, just as a universe without space is chaos. Now imagine space again. Picture it not as a black canvas, but as a soft fabric, woven of fields, vibrating gently when something like an electron moves through that fabric. It disturbs the threads. It creates ripples, responses. That disturbance is what we call force. Even gravity is just a wrinkle in space. You live not on top of space, but within a warp in its threads. The earth doesn't pull you down. It bends the fabric, but you roll gently toward the center. Everything that seems solid is shaped by that softness. Even the heaviest thing in your life is floating, in a sense, on space's subtle sea. This sea never stops moving, even in deep intergalactic space, where no planets shine and no light reaches. Quantum fluctuations bubble beneath stillness. There are regions so empty they contain only a few atoms per cubic meter. And yet, something moves there. Higgs fields, neutrinos, maybe even dark energy. It's an unknown force that accelerates the expansion of the universe. Some scientists believe that 70% of the universe is made of dark energy, not stars, not galaxies, not atoms, but the energy of space itself. Not what's in the vacuum, but the vacuum. It is not the absence of being, it is being. Let your thoughts stretch now, just as space stretches. Think about the space between galaxies, then the space between stars, then the space between atoms, then the space between quarks. The building blocks of protons and neutrons. Each layer holds more space than substance. You are mostly made of space. Your body, your breath, your brain. You are a walking lattice of emptiness and light. Soft blur fields and motion. Even your heartbeats leave space between them. And it's in those spaces that emotion forms. Have you ever felt something in a pause? When someone stops speaking, when the room goes still, when the world seems to hold its breath. That's the space between things. And it matters, because life happens not just in the actions, okay, but in the silences. Not just in the atoms, but in the vacuum. You may never touch a virtual particle, but it touches you. It shapes the structure of atoms. It affects the stability of matter. It helps define how far light can travel. It might even explain how the universe began through quantum fluctuations. In a vacuum so rich with possibility that it birthed time itself. So the next time you feel small, or alone, or lost in space, remember, you are not adrift in nothing. You are swimming in something. A something that holds, okay, galaxies in its web, that births stars in silence, that remembers photons from the dawn of time. You are not separate from space. You are woven into it. Your voice, your thoughts, your warmth, they ripple the fabric just a little. And in that ripple, the universe listens quietly, endlessly, and always. In the space between things, a new question begins to form. If emptiness is not empty, then what else is hiding in silence? Close your eyes. Now, stretch your imagination outward, far beyond your own. Q City, your planet, past the moon, past Mars, past the swirl of the Milky Way. Keep going. Farther still. It's hard to picture, isn't it? You want to see stars, getting fewer space, growing thinner. Until, maybe, you reach an edge, a place where it all stops. But when you arrive there, in your mind, what do you see? A wall? A barrier? A great nothing. And beyond that, more nothing. It's unsatisfying. You feel the discomfort of an idea with no closure, because your mind wants boundaries. It's how you understand the world. Room has walls. A book has a last page. Even your body ends at your skin. But space may be a different kind of thing entirely. Imagine, for a moment, a balloon, a perfect sphere. Now, imagine drawing tiny dots on its surface, like galaxies sprinkled across the sky. You are an ant walking across this balloon. You move in a straight line, never turning. Eventually, you circle around and arrive at the same spot. You never found an edge. You never changed direction, but you completed a loop. This is a finite surface, has limited area, but it's unbounded. There's no border, no end, just smooth, continuous space. Now, picture that balloon not as a two-dimensional surface, but as a three-dimensional space. Not a balloon in space, but a balloon as space. This is the concept of a closed universe. It's not infinite, but it also doesn't stop. you could travel in a straight line forever and, given enough time, return to where you started. No walls, no outer shell, just a loop of existence. It's a mind-bending idea, not because it's complex, but because it feels so strange. How can something have no edge and yet not be infinite? How can everything loop without something outside it? But nature doesn't always follow your intuition. It follows geometry and math. This is called non-Euclidean space, a world where parallel lines can meet and triangles don't always add up to 180 degrees. On Earth, you've seen this in maps. Draw a triangle across the globe, one corner at the North Pole, its other two on the equator. Its angles add up to more than they should, 'cause the surface curves. Space may do the same. In fact, it may curve not just in 3 dimensions, but in 4, and you, living within it, may never see that curve directly. You'd feel it only in subtle ways, like the way galaxies move, the way light bends, the way geometry adds up a little differently at cosmic scales. Astronomers call this curvature of space. And they've spent decades measuring it, peering into the distant universe to see how matter and energy shape the cosmos right now. Best evidence says space is flat, not because it's boring, but because it doesn't curve significantly, at least not within the parts we can see. But that doesn't mean it's infinite, because just like you can stand on a huge sphere and feel no curve under your feet, you can exist in a curved universe and never sense the bend. The earth feels flat when you walk across a field. The sea looks endless from a boat, but zoom out, curvature reveals itself. Space may be playing the same quiet trick. Now, let's travel even deeper into thought. What if space doesn't curve smoothly? What if it wraps and folds like a Mobius strip, a surface with only one side? Or what if it curls like a donut, a torus? You move forward and eventually arrive behind yourself, not just in space, but in time. In such a universe, direction becomes complicated. Forward might eventually mean backward. Left and right might reconnect in odd ways. There are entire fields of physics, topology, and cosmology built to explore these shapes, not for fantasy's sake, but because they might match reality. The universe could be a shape you can't picture, because your mind evolved for trees and rivers, not for cosmic loops and four-dimensional curvature. And yet, your neurons still try. They build metaphors, they model equations, they stretch imagination till it meets wonder, because somewhere deep inside, you feel it. Space is not nothing. It is not blank. It has form, texture, rules, and perhaps a shape now. Ask yourself, if the universe is finite, what does that change? Does it make life smaller, less grand? Or does it mean the cosmos is a complete whole? A perfect, self-contained system, like a pearl, like a seed, like a breath. Perhaps it's comforting too. Imagine that space is not endless, but whole, that it loops gently, folding all things back into each other, that nothing is truly lost, not even light, that the photons you emit in joy, or pain, or breath, may one day return to you. Curved space means connection, not just metaphorically, but literally. It means you are linked to every point by geometry. And if space is curved, then so is time, because they are not separate. They are space-time, a fabric woven of distance and duration. So, curved space is a curved history, and perhaps a curved future in such a cosmos. Beginnings and endings blur. You are not at the center, but you are not outside either. There is no center, no edge, just flow, just now, just here. And so you settle into this idea, not because it answers everything, but because it opens something. A feeling that space, like thought, may be finite in content, but boundless in wonder. Because even if space loops, it still invites you forward. It still beckons. It still holds mysteries in every direction. And so, softly, gently, your mind asks if space loops forever. What stories are waiting at the place where you meet yourself again? You hold a map in your hands. It shows roads, rivers, boundaries, tells you where things are. And yet, even on Earth, a map is never the land itself. It is a guess, a translation, simplification. Now, imagine making a map of the universe. Not a planet, not a solar system, but everything. Galaxies, nebulae, black holes, the beginning of time, the edge of the observable. How would you begin? Where would you center it? What scale would you choose? The truth is, you already have a map like this. It lives in radio waves and telescope images, in glowing spirals, plotted on screens, in computer simulations, in theories written with trembling chalk on dark boards. But even the best maps, missing most of the story, because the universe won't hold. Still, it stretches, expands, slips away, and the act of mapping it is like sketching the outline of a moving tide with a candle in your hand. Let's begin with what you can see. The stars above your head, Tina, form a delicate lace of light. They look fixed, but they move. They orbit. They drift. They belong to spiral arms of galaxies that rotate slowly over. Billions of years beyond them lie countless other stars, so distant their light is stretched thin. Further still, galaxies scatter like seeds. Each one contains billions of suns and swirls through space on its own journey. Telescopes like Hubble and James Webb have shown you slices of this unimaginable expanse in deep-field images. You stare into tiny regions of sky, no larger than a grain of sand held at arm's length. Discover thousands of galaxies within each speck of light. An entire cosmic city, each photograph, time capsule, because light travels. It takes time to arrive. So when you see a galaxy a billion light years away, you see it as it was a billion years ago. This means every map of the universe is also a map of the past. You cannot see what is now across space. You can only see what once was. The further you look, the older the light becomes. And somewhere near the farthest edge of vision, you find the cosmic microwave background. The afterglow of the Big Bang is the limit of your sight. Not because space ends there, but because light hasn't had time to reach you from beyond. This is your observable universe. Roughly, 93 billion light years across, though the universe itself may be far larger, or even infinite. But here's the quiet wonder. Even inside this visible bubble, you can only see about 5% of what exists. The rest, a mystery of weight and shadow. There is dark matter, which exerts gravity, bends light but doesn't shine, and dark energy, which pushes galaxies apart, shaping the universe's fate. Together, they make up 95% of the cosmos, but no map has ever drawn them directly. You feel them by their effects, their pull, their absence. Imagine trying to chart a forest when the trees are invisible, okay? And the only signs are rustling leaves and bending branches. That is your cosmic. CARTOGRAPHY. Now, picture how scientists create these maps. They scan the sky with arrays of telescopes. They use redshift, the stretching of light due to space's expansion, to estimate distance. They catalog the positions of galaxies, quasars, and gamma-ray bursts. They convert numbers into pictures. Dots become structures, lines become filaments, and slowly a shape emerges, a cosmic web. Vast threads of galaxies form bridges across space, with empty voids in between places where almost nothing lives. These filaments are not just poetic ideas, right? They are real structures, stretching hundreds of millions of light years across the universe. It seems it's woven, and you are a node in its fabric. But even with all this, the map is incomplete, always, because the universe keeps moving, because the light from faraway places hasn't yet arrived, because new things are being born in the darkness. And because, somewhere, out there, there are secrets you didn't even think to look for. And even if you could see everything, even if you captured every photon, every whisper of gravity, there is another limit. Your own mind, your perception, your math. These are tools evolved for survival, for spotting lions in the grass, not understanding the fate of galaxies. You map the world through the lens of your own biology. You simplify. YMBOLISE. You hold models in your head, but never the full thing. And yet, you keep mapping, because every glimpse of the unknown calls you deeper into it, because wonder grows at the edge of knowledge, because unfinished maps are not failures, they are invitations. They say, here is what we know, and here is all we do not. And so, new instruments are built, radio telescopes the size of nations, detectors buried under ice and stone, listening for neutrinos, satellites tracing faint background hums from the beginning of time. Each one adds a line, a contour, but the whole picture never comes. And maybe that's the point. Maybe a perfect map would end the journey. Maybe the mystery is what keeps space alive in you, keeps your thoughts circling stars, keeps your fingers tracing constellations in the air. After all, even ancient humans mapped the skies. They marked the paths of planets, named the constellations, told stories in the stars. Their maps were filled with animals, gods, and spirits. Were they wrong? Or were they just using the language they had? You're doing the same, only now. The gods are equations, and the spirits are quantum fields, but the impulse is eternal too. Understand, to locate yourself in a vast, shifting place, to say, here I am, and this is what I can see. And so, your map grows and grows, but never ends, because space does not offer stillness. It offers movement, curiosity, change, and so the map remains open, a sketchbook, a breath, a promise that every question you ask will lead you not to an answer, but to another question. And in this endless unfolding, you are not lost, you are learning, and the unknown is not your enemy. It is your home, your home. You've spent your life thinking of the universe as everything, everywhere, all the galaxies, all the stars, all the space between them. But now, imagine that it might be just one room in a much larger house, one ripple on a vast ocean, one verse in a longer song. This idea of the multiverse is not fantasy. It rises slowly from the fabric of physics itself, whispers in equations, suggestions in cosmological models, the hint that this, everything you know, might be a small part of something even bigger. But before we stretch outward, let's return to where it begins, back to the Big Bang. Not an explosion in space, but of space itself. A moment of expansion when time, space, energy, and laws were born. But some versions of cosmic inflation, the rapid swelling of space in that earliest instant, suggest this bursting might not be a one-time event. Inflation might be ongoing, sprouting universes like seeds, each one expanding into its own bubble of space-time, a bubble universe. In your universe, this universe is just one bubble in a foamy, churning multiverse sea. You'll never see the others. Their light cannot reach you. They are outside your observable boundary, outside the fabric of what you call reality. But physics doesn't need your eyes to make a thing real. It needs only mathematics, symmetry, and possibility. And so these bubbles rise. In theory, each one born with its own constants, its own rules. In one, gravity may be stronger. In another, stars might never form. In some, time may move sideways. And in a rare few, including yours, conditions are just right for complexity, for atoms, for minds. This is called the anthropic principle. that you live in a universe capable of supporting life, because if it didn't, you wouldn't be here to ask about it. Not because your universe is special, but because the others are silent. It's a thought that makes you feel small and strangely comforted. But there's more. The multiverse may not come only from cosmic inflation. Quantum physics, that dreamlike theater of possibility, offers its own version. Every time a quantum event happens, say, a particle flips this way or that, both outcomes are real, but each plays out in its own branch of reality, like the splitting of paths in a forest. One goes left, one goes right. Both are taken. This is the many worlds interpretation, where every choice, every randomness, every flicker creates a new universe in one. You are reading this sentence in another. You've closed your eyes in another still. You were never born. Infinite outcomes, infinite use, no endings, only branches. It feels poetic, terrifying, beautiful, strange, and yet some physicists take it seriously, not because they want to believe in infinite selves, but because the math works. The theory is elegant. The questions are sharper than the doubts. Still, none of this can be proven. Not yet, and perhaps not ever, because the spaces between these universes, if they exist, are not just empty space. They are beyond your dimensions, not far, but unreachable. A fish cannot imagine air. A shadow cannot imagine depth. So too, you may never cross into another cosmos, but you can imagine them. And in imagining, you expand your own inner sky. Now pause and think not of other universes, but of the space between them. What is that? What separates one bubble from another? Some theories say nothing at all, that they are stitched by hidden dimensions, curled up, unseen. But real string theory suggests there are brains, short for membranes, floating in higher dimensional space. Universes might be BRNS, and when brains collide, they might create new big bangs, new universes. Your own cosmic beginning might have been the echo of such a meeting, a kiss in the dark, a ripple in the silence between worlds. Others imagine these spaces as quantum vacuums, not truly empty, but teeming with potential, foaming, jittering, barely their energies, waiting to swell into being, waiting to become. And maybe this multiverse is not scattered. Maybe it is nested, fractal, one universe within another, like Russian dolls, with yours floating gently, unknowingly, inside a greater shell, and that one inside another, and so on, until meaning itself becomes dizzy. But if this is true, what does it mean to be you? Where do you begin and end? Infinite versions of you exist. If universes bloom and vanish without your knowing, if your entire cosmos is a bubble in a foam, what is the center? What is home? Here is the soft answer. You are here now with this breath, this moment, in this universe, the one you know. And perhaps that is enough, because even if other universes exist, even if the multiverse hums with songs you'll never hear, this one sings too. The stars above you are real. The atoms in your body are made by dying suns. The thoughts you think ripple through a brain shaped by time, light, and the unfolding of galaxies. You are the story this universe tells itself, briefly, gently. And that is not small. That is not less. That is everything still. The mind wanders. It drifts past the edges of known space. It whispers, what else? Are there other versions of love? Other laws of physics? Other colors, never seen? You may never know, but you may always wonder. And in that wondering, you honor the mystery. You say yes to the unknown. Yes to the map with no borders. Yes to the silence between songs, and so you float, not in space alone, but in possibility. Softest space of all, And now you drift toward the edge of the known, toward a place where silence thickens, where stars fall away, and all that remains is the hush of something just out of reach. Perhaps it's not what's beyond the universe that matters, but the silence just before the question. Others imagine that between these universes lies a deeper stillness, a place not of particles, not of waves, not even of time as you know it, a true nothing, not the kind of nothing that is empty space, or a vacuum humming with virtual particles, but a nothing without location, without up or down, without before or after, a nothing that doesn't even hold silence, 'cause there is no one to hear it. It's difficult to imagine such a space, or unspace your brain wasn't made for, that dot your mind evolved to touch, to reach, to grasp the familiar, and this lies beyond even metaphor, but perhaps it's in the spaces between universes that the greatest questions live. What is a universe, if not its contents? Is a cosmos defined by its matter, its energy, or by the laws that shape them? In other words, what changes from one universe to the next? And who would be there to see? Some physicists say nothing changes but the constants, the speed of light, the mass of the electron, the strength of gravity. These are the dials that set reality's tone. If you change just one by the smallest amount, stars may never form, or atoms may never bind, or the universe may collapse before it breathes. Your universe is balanced delicately, as if tuned, not because it was designed, perhaps, but because only the tuned ones last long enough for someone to notice. Others imagine something stranger, that some universes might not just have different constants, but entirely different dimensions. Maybe yours has 3 dimensions of space and 1 of time, but others may twist with 5 or 7 or none, a realm of pure geometry or pure math or pure information. Some theories of digital physics go even further. They ask, what if the universe is made not of particles, but of bits, ones and zeros, not inside a computer, but as the most fundamental form of being an electron, a photon? Maybe they're not things. Maybe they're answers. Yes or no. Here or not. On or off. A blinking existence. And so, in this idea, the multiverse becomes not a space full of places, but a library full of programs. Each universe a different code. Each cosmos a different unfolding pattern. Each life a line in the code, running, pausing, branching, fading. And yet, even these ideas leave something untouched. The feeling that your universe is personal, that its stars rise and fall with a rhythm that moves you, that even if there are other universes, they are not this one, they are not here, they are not now. You live in the only one you can touch, the only one that touches back. But perhaps that's the greatest beauty, that in this one universe, one bubble, one line of code you can look up and wonder, and know that the mystery itself is the gift. Still, something lingers, a thought, soft and slow. If these universes are so many, and you are so small, do they matter? Or is the very act of wondering what gives them meaning? Because a question, too, is a kind of light, and maybe, just maybe, somewhere else in another bubble, a mind, much like yours, asks the same thing. Unaware of you, unaware of this universe, but dreaming, nonetheless, not of galaxies, not of particles, but of possibility. That's what the multiverse is. Not proof, but possibility. A framework wide enough to hold your wonder. You may never see it, never measure it, but you feel the shape, of its silence behind the stars. And as you drift now into thought, into sleep, into a place where certainty softens, you carry that possibility with you, like a whisper left by the cosmos gently folded into your breath. And somewhere in that vast imagined foam of universes, the space between the bubbles, the silence that connects the verses, might hold something even more mysterious. What if there are rules deeper than physics? What if space is not the stage, but the song, and the next verse is already humming? You close your eyes and imagine space, deep space, not the space you see in movies, filled with swooping ships and glowing colors, not even the space filled with bright constellations, but something deeper, a space beyond stars, a quiet so vast, so complete, it hums with its own kind of presence. At first, you might picture darkness, but darkness is still something. This is quieter than that. It is the silence that holds no echo, no footsteps, no voices, no memory of sound at all. It's the silence that surrounds galaxies, that stretches between clusters of stars like oceans, stretch between islands, and like the ocean, it moves slowly, silently. The further you go, the less there is to guide you. No signposts, no flickering lights, no dust trails, okay? Even just silence that goes on. It's not that nothing is there. It's that what is there doesn't speak in ways your eyes understand. Because beyond the edge of the visible, the universe continues. But light, old and tired, stretches so thin you can no longer see it. Photons, born at the beginning of time, have traveled billions of years, their energy now stretched into long, lazy waves, infrared, microwave, radio. They are the echoes of creation, still floating, still traveling. This ancient light is called the cosmic microwave background, the CMB. You cannot see it with your eyes, but it is all around you. It's a whisper from 13.8 billion years ago, when the universe first became transparent. Before that, everything was too hot, too dense, like fog before sunrise. And then, suddenly, the light broke free and began its journey. Now, it passes through you, as quietly, like wind through tall grass. That's part of the silence you feel in deep space, not a lack of something, but the memory of everything. But even this background hum fades as you drift deeper. You reach regions where galaxies no longer shine, not because they're gone, but because their light hasn't reached you. Or maybe never will. The universe is expanding, and the expansion isn't like a balloon growing to empty space. Space itself stretches. Galaxies are carried with it, and so their light stretches to redshifts until it slips from sight, until it slips from existence, at least in your reality. That's the silence beyond the known, not just emptiness, but inaccessibility. There are galaxies out there, full of stars, full of motion, full of life perhaps, but their light is gone to you. Pulled too far, quote, traveling too slow. No telescope will ever bring them back. No waiting will reveal their glow. The expansion of the universe has taken them, okay, over the horizon. They are not in your past. They are not in your future. They are somewhere else entirely, okay? Place your physics can no longer touch. And in time, even nearby galaxies will fade, one by one. First, the distant ones, then those closer, until only your own remains, like a single candle in a vast cathedral. Eventually, even that may dim, because stars are not forever. They burn, they swell, they die, and new ones form, but not endlessly. There is only so much fuel, so much hydrogen to fuse. Eventually, the future is so far you cannot picture it. Star formation will stop. Not suddenly, not violently, just a slow dimming, a slow fade until the night sky grows blank, still, cold. That is the silence beyond the known. Not silence as absence, but silence as conclusion. And yet, the story doesn't end, because the universe doesn't need light to continue in the dark. Particles still dance, black holes whisper, photons glide unseen, but your eyes and your instruments fall quiet. You, the observer, are left behind, There are theories, though. Some believe that even in this great silence, new beginnings may rise, that quantum fluctuations, tiny, spontaneous changes in the vacuum, could one day give birth to new bubbles, new universes, little sparks from a cold sea. Others imagine that even as galaxies vanish, and stars die, black holes might linger for trillions of years. They might sit in the dark, silent, still, until, slowly, they evaporate. It's called Hawking radiation, a slow leak, a soft goodbye, and then, truly, only silence remains. No matter, no light, only space itself, stretched thin, and yet still expanding, still becoming more empty. Can something that contains nothing still grow? And if it does, what does that say about your understanding of space? Maybe silence isn't the end. Maybe it's the next phase, because silence itself can hold pattern, can hold story in music. Silence between notes gives shape to the melody. In poetry, silence at the line break carries weight. In thought, silence lets memory rise, and in the cosmos, perhaps silence is where new laws begin, where rules reset, where the ink is dry and the page waits. There are physicists who call this the heat, death of the universe, not because it is hot, but because energy has spread so thin that nothing can change. No gradients to power engines, no difference to drive thought. All is equal. All is still. But even this might not be an ending, because in physics, every silence invites a question, and in questions, new universes may bloom. You don't know. You may never know. But the silence beyond the known isn't empty. It's potential, waiting without sound, waiting without shape, waiting without need. Just there, quiet, vast, watching, or perhaps not watching, just being. As you close your eyes now and let your thoughts drift into that quiet, know that this silence is not loneliness. It's spacious. It's room for breath, room for wonder, room for all things, even those not yet imagined. And beyond that silence, at the very edges of your thoughts, you begin to sense something stranger. Still, what happens when even physics gives way? When the known laws unravel and the edges of being soften? Is there a place where thought itself dissolves? A place where equations fall quiet? Where the universe forgets its own language? Where not even time knows how to pass? That is where you're drifting next, not to the edge of space, but to the edge of understanding. There comes a moment when you feel the limits of knowing, not because the world ends, but because the tools you've built to understand it begin to falter. You've lived your life guided by patterns, the orbit of planets, the arc of a throne, stone, the ticking of a clock. Even your breath, rising and falling, feels like a law. And for a long time, physics followed this rhythm. It spoke in certainty. It mapped the heavens. It told you that for every action, there was a reaction. Promised you a world that made sense, but not everything does. At the very beginning of everything, and at the edges of black holes, physics begins to stutter. The equations work until they don't, not because they're wrong, but because they were never built to speak this language. You are standing now on the boundary between what is known and what is simply felt, the edge of breath, the place where math begins to whisper instead of shout. Let's begin at the beginning, the moment before moments, the Big Bang, a name that suggests explosion, force, light. But it wasn't an explosion in space. It was the creation of space. No sita, no edge, no blast, just an everywhere stretching. Before that, there was no before, because time itself was part of the unfolding. This is where physics cracks, where the numbers curve back on themselves, where infinities show up in places they shouldn't, temperatures too hot to imagine, densities beyond matter, equations that don't converge but spiral. And yet, from that chaos came everything: time, light, matter, breath. It's as if the universe exhaled, and with that single breath, made room for you. Now, flip the universe over. Look into a black hole. Not a monster, not a void, but a place where gravity becomes absolute, where space curves so sharply, light itself cannot climb out. You might imagine falling into one. At first, nothing feels different. You drift, you fall. Time stretches around you to an outside observer. You freeze at the edge of the event horizon. To you, the journey continues, but as you near the center, something breaks. Not your body, not your ship, but your understanding. The math says you hit a singularity, a point of infinite density, zero volume, breakdown of space and time. But what does that mean? You don't know. No one does. Your physics was built for planets and pendulums, not for infinities. This is where physics runs out of breath. Not because it's tired, but because it was only ever meant to take you this far. You might ask, why not just write new equations? Quantum mechanics, after all, handles the very small. General relativity handles the very large. But bring them together in a black hole, or the first instant of the Big Bang, and they argue. Their rules don't match. It's like trying to blend oil and water. They each describe a truth, but together they leave a silence. Physicists have tried to bridge the gap with string theory, where particles are not points, but loops of vibrating energy. With loop quantum gravity, where space itself is made of tiny loops, woven like a net. These are beautiful ideas, but so far, no proof, no final answer. Just hints, whispers, a hope that maybe, just maybe, the silence can be named. Until then, you're left with poetry. Because where numbers fail, metaphor begins. Maybe the beginning of the universe wasn't a point, but a boundary, like the surface of the earth. You can travel in any direction, but there is no edge. Or maybe time loops, or splits, or emerges from something even deeper, something not bound by time at all. You don't know, but you feel it. You feel it when you look at a star and wonder where its light began. You feel it when you close your eyes and sense the room around you breathing. You feel it when silence grows thick and time feels paused, and in that stillness, you touch something more real than understanding. Wonder, because wonder is what remains when knowledge gives way. It's the breath after thought, the step after science, the feeling that something is vast, true, and just beyond your reach. You may never write the equation for it, but you can live inside it. It's in the black hole. It's in the Big Bang. It's in the space between atoms. It's in the look on your face when you realize you are part of this mystery. You are not outside the universe, serving. You are made of it. You are the unfolding, the breath of physics, learning to breathe itself. And so you drift, not away from truth, but toward a different kind of knowing. The kind without numbers, without graphs, without predictions, just presence, just trust, just quiet. And as you hover on the edge of what science can say, you begin to feel time differently, not as seconds, but as a fabric, not as a line, but as a shape. It bends, it folds, it carries you. And you wonder if time can bend. Can it stop? If space can stretch? Can it pause? And what happens? The universe takes a breath and doesn't exhale. Lie still for a moment. Feel your breath ease into silence. Feel your body become quiet, not asleep, not absent, but wide open. You are not just lying on a bed. You are resting inside a universe, and it is resting inside you, because your body, as ordinary as it may feel, is full of echoes from far beyond its skin. The air in your lungs, the calcium in your bones, The iron in your blood, none of it began with you. It began in stars, massive stars, ancient ones, long gone now. They burned, they exploded, they scattered their ashes across galaxies, and those ashes became you. You are not separate from the cosmos. You are its continuation. So when you feel small, when you look at the sky and imagine yourself as a speck, remember this: the stars are not above you, they are within you. You are the dust of infinity, arranged into breath. In every breath, you take moves through space that is still growing. Yes, space expands, even now, not just between galaxies, but between every breath, every atom, every note of silence around you, the chair you sit in, the distance between your hands, the width of your chest as you inhale. All of it floats atop an ever-widening sea. You don't feel this stretch. It happens on a scale too large, slow, but your body knows, not in words, in rhythm, because your body doesn't tell time with clocks. It tells time with cycles, sleep and waking, hunger and fullness, pulse and breath. You feel time through what repeats and what doesn't. Your heart doesn't tick like a machine. It sways, slows, hurries. It feels emotion. It feels the moon. Your hormones rise with the sun. They quiet with the dark. You are a tide, pulled by light. You live in the universe. Yes, but the universe also lives in you, and it speaks through sensations. The warmth on your skin when sunlight touches you is not just heat, it is history. That light left the sun 8 minutes ago. You feel it now, but it began before your last thought ended. What you feel is present is always a little behind, and that delay is everywhere. You hear a friend's voice, and it takes a fraction of a second to reach you. You touch someone's hand. Your nerves take time to carry the message, so your present moment is stitched together from little delays, from echoes. You are not a single instant. You are a gentle overlap of many. It's almost -NOWS, and still you feel whole. You feel complete. You feel here. That is the miracle. You are made of stars, dust, neurons, and time delays, and yet you feel like a self, a single, quiet awareness floating through space. How does that happen? It's not magic. It's not physics, exactly. It's something softer. Your brain creates a sense of now by holding things just long enough. It waits for the sound, the light, the thought. Then it wraps them together and hands them to you. This is your moment, it says. Even if it's already slightly gone, even if it's stitched from whispers, and you believe it. You believe this now is real. You feel it in your chest, like a bell just before it stops ringing. You feel it in your fingertips. When you touch warm water, you feel it in the stillness after a deep breath. These are not illusions. They are the most real parts of living, and they remind you time is not just physics. It is perception. It is how you hold the universe in your body. When you're happy, time flies. When you're grieving, time stretches. A minute can feel like an hour. An hour can vanish. Your biology bends time to dot. Your cells divide on schedules. Your muscles repair at night. Your memories encode better during dreams. Dot inside you. Time flows like a river through winding hills. Not straight, not even, but steady. Your cells know when to grow. Your bones remember gravity. Your skin knows when the wind changes. And your nervous system, it's a quiet highway of your senses, feels even more. It tracks pressure, vibration, pain, warmth. It maps your body, moment by moment, into a feeling of self. Close your eyes. What do you feel? The weight of your body, the stretch of your back, the quiet pulse in your fingers. None of that requires sight. It requires awareness, and that awareness is shaped by time. You are not just a body. You are a body in time, living, adapting, changing. Even as you read this, your cells are rearranging themselves. Neurons are firing. Blood is flowing. tiny molecules are drifting from one place to another. You don't control it, you just are it. And what happens when you stop? When you rest? When you surrender? Time doesn't stop, but it feels like it might. In the stillness, you notice things: the tick of the clock in another room, the hum of the refrigerator, the sound of your own breathing. You realize how much always surrounds you, but also how quiet the universe can be. Still, vast, soft. Your body responds to that quiet. Your heart rate slows, your muscles soften, your breath deepens. This isn't sleep yet, but it's close, and it's here. It's in this threshold that you begin to truly feel the infinite, not as a number, not as a distance, but as a softness in the air, a silence in the soul. Because infinity is not just big dot. It's still, it's slow, it's present, and your body, in its wisdom, was built to notice it, to feel awe, to feel wonder, not as a thought, but as a sensation, a shiver in the spine, a widening in the chest, feeling of being connected to something too large to name. So now feel how your body contains centuries of stars, how your breath moves through a fabric that began 13.8 billion years ago, how your heartbeat is not separate from the rhythm of the cosmos. It is part of it. You are not outside the universe watching. You are the universe, aware of itself, and that awareness moves through time like light through a prism. It bends, it colors, it reveals, and even as time stretches forward, you remain here, breathing, noticing, becoming. And in the stillness, after that noticing, you begin to wonder if you are shaped by infinity. Then where does you end and everything else begin? You breathe in and feel the distance. Not the distance between your eyes and the stars, but the distance between what is, okay, and what will be. The universe is growing, quietly, softly, constantly. Not like a balloon swelling outward in a room, but like the room itself stretching at. It's not that galaxies fly away from each other. It's that the space between them expands, the very fabric of distance unfolding beneath their feet. And it's been doing this for nearly 14 billion years. You might imagine the universe as an explosion, a loud burst echoing through a black silence. But that's not quite right. It's quieter, stranger. The Big Bang wasn't an explosion in space. It was an explosion of space. Space itself ignited, expanded, cooled, curled into atoms, and it never stopped. You live in that aftermath. You breathe the residue of that unfurling. You sleep, heat, cry, and love inside a universe that is still growing around you. But how long will it grow? That's the question. Will it slow down, pause, reverse? Will it keep stretching forever? To answer that, physicists first watched the galaxies, not just any galaxies, distant ones, faint ones. Faint as breath on glass. They expected to find that these galaxies were slowing down. After all, gravity pulls everything inward, so shouldn't the universe to feel that tug? But what they found was stranger. Instead of slowing, the expansion was speeding up. It wasn't just continuing, it was accelerating, as if something hidden was pushing space apart faster and faster. They called it dark energy, not because it's made of darkness, but because we don't yet know what it is. It's invisible, untouchable, and yet it shapes everything. It is the quiet hand pulling galaxies from each other. It is the breath behind the growing silence. And if it continues, the future is unlike anything you've ever known. Picture the night sky as it is now, dotted with stars, a scattering of galaxies, some close, some impossibly far. Now imagine that, in 1 trillion years, most of those galaxies have vanished from view. Not because they died, but because their light can no longer reach you. The space between us has grown too fast. It's too wide, too stretched. The stars still shine, but the glow no longer finds your eyes. You are adrift in a cosmic hush, and then even those nearby galaxies drift away. The night becomes emptier, not darker, but lonelier, because even darkness has texture. But this is a silence deeper than shadow. Eventually, the stars within your own galaxy begin to fade. They use up their fuel. They swell, collapse, go cold. New stars stop forming. The sky dims not with suddenness, but with grace, like a fire that burns not to ashes, but to silence. Planets grow cold. Moons fall still. Atoms drift apart, stretched by the endless tug of space. Even black holes, the heavy anchors of the cosmos, begin to evaporate. They radiate away, particle by particle, slowly, eternally, until they, too, dissolve. And still, space keeps expanding. What's left is not a void. It's more like a waiting, a fabric, still stretching, still soft, still restless, an emptiness that's not empty, but unfinished. This is the far future, the deep time beyond imagination. But it begins here with the question you now hold. Will space keep expanding forever? If dark energy remains constant, yes, the universe will not stop. It will not reverse. It will not collapse into itself like a breath drawn back. It will continue outward, growing colder, softer, quieter. This is called the heat death of the universe. But that name is misleading. It's not fire that dies. It's difference. Heat is only heat when it flows from hot to cold. And in the far future, everything will be the same temperature. Everywhere. No contrast, no current, no change. It is not death in the way you know it. It's more like a final evening, a stillness too complete for time to measure. And yet, even then space continues. You wonder what that means. What does it mean to expand when there is nothing left to stretch? What does it mean to move when there is no observer, no anchor? But that's the mystery of dark energy. It moves without being seen. It pushes without resistance. It is the softest force, and yet the most persistent. Some physicists believe it may change, that one day it may reverse, or fade, or evolve into something else. If it does, the universe may one day collapse, not expand, but fall inward. The stars would draw closer. The galaxies would return. Time itself would twist. The great big cruncher, final inhale after eons of exhale. Or maybe the universe, its expansion, collapse, rebirth, over and over, endlessly. But we don't know. And perhaps we never will, because the future doesn't reveal self in equations. It waits in silence. You live in a rare time of universe filled with stars, galaxies, color, a moment between darknesses, and that moment is precious, not because it lasts, but because you are here. To notice it, to feel it, to be part of it, right now. As you breathe, space stretches, galaxies slip, light bends, and you curled beneath blankets. Half asleep, you exist within this soft, expanding song. Your molecules were born in stars. Your thoughts ride the curve, spacing. Your memories float in an ocean of motion. You are not outside of this. You are woven in. And as the universe expands, so do you. Your thoughts stretch toward the unknown. Your breath reaches into the air, touches atoms made billions of years ago. You are both moment and movement. You are both small and infinite. And as you fall into sleep, you fall into the arms of a universe that has never stopped growing. It may never stop, but neither does wonder. And maybe the soft quiet of tomorrow's universe, something new will begin to bloom. You sit quietly, eyes closed, not to escape the world, but to feel it more fully. It's not the noise, not the news, not the list of things to do, but the space between all that thought, that space inside you, around you, the silence, that gently hums when thought grows still. Where do you end? Not metaphorically, but truly. Where does the border of you meet the border of everything else? You might point to your skin, a familiar container, your arms, your ribs, the top of your head, but your breath moves across that line. You inhale molecules older than planets. You exhale pieces of yourself into the room, even as you sit still. You are exchanging. You are not separate from the world. You are porous, permeable, blurred, and when you gaze up at the night sky, your question stretches. If space has no edge, where do you end? Once, you thought space was a place. It's like a room filled with stars. Something you could step into, explore, map. But then came a shift. Physicists, philosophers, stargazers alike, they began to see space not as a container, but as the very fabric of existence. It is not just where things happen, it is how things happen. And it doesn't end, at least, not in the way a field ends, or a road, or a life. If space does curve, if the cosmos wraps around itself in ways your brain can't picture, then there are no corners, no walls, no edges. You could travel forever in one direction, and somehow, without ever turning, end up where you began. A loop, not on a map, but in the very texture of reality. This is called a finite but unbounded universe, like the surface of a sphere, limited in area, but without edges. You walk around Earth, you never fall off. Now imagine that in 3 dimensions, a cosmos that contains itself, a space that folds inward and outward at once. And in that shape, where does anything end? Does a galaxy have a border? Does your thought? Maybe endings only exist when you decide they do. Even your body, a universe in its own right. Inside you, trillions of cells, bacteria, neurons, memories stored in electrochemical sparks. Your gut has a nervous system. Your skin talks to light. Your lungs sing, even in silence. And all of you floats in space, not above it, not inside it. As part of it, you are not a visitor in this universe. You are the universe, briefly becoming aware of itself. Just like galaxies aren't scattered into space, they stretch space. Just like mass bends the fabric of existence, your presence curves the moment you inhabit. You have weight, not just physically, but poetically. You affect the world by noticing it, which means you do not end at your skin. Your gaze ripples outward. Your words change molecules in someone else's air. Even your silence reshapes space. So, when you wonder if the universe ends, it's also fair to wonder if you do. The mystics and the physicists meet here. They both admit, the closer you look at the boundary between self and space, the more it dissolves. In quantum physics, particles exist in relationship. Their properties are not independent, but entangled, entwined like fingers in the dark. In biology, your body does not thrive alone. You are an ecosystem. Inside your gut, ancient microbes negotiate digestion, emotion, health. On your skin, other life forms breathe with you. Even thought is not sealed off. Ideas ripple. They transfer. They stretch through generations, like light from long dead stars still reaching Earth. So, when you think of boundaries, ask, what is truly yours? What part of you does not come from somewhere else? Your atoms were born in the furnace of stars. Your oxygen comes from trees. Your calcium from oceans. Your iron from supernovae. You are a symphony of borrowed matter, composed by chance, held together by time, and played just once in a universe with no edge. Perhaps you are not meant to end, but to echo, to shimmer briefly, then drift. And as you drift, the stars keep singing, even the ones that fade, because their light goes on outward forever, even when no one watches. The edge of space is not a wall, it's a feeling. a question without punctuation. And maybe, just maybe, that's what you are too. Not a conclusion, but a continuation. You dream, you breathe, you end. And you dance single quotes. There's no final curtain. It's only curtain after curtain, parting into the unknown. And if space keeps expanding, what might it become? Not emptier, but richer. With mystery, with possibility, with versions of you that have not yet awakened. The final frontier was never out there. It was always within, where your wonder meets the silence, where your breath meets the stars. And now, as you float into sleep, remember, cosmos does not stop at the edge of what you know. It begins at the edge of what you're willing to feel.